In this topic of history of biogeography, we will be discussing about the history of living together. That means we will be discussing in reference with the ecology, the study of biogeography. There was a German botanist and plant physiologist named as Julius von Sachs, and he had a physiological approach to the ecology. So he said that there are environmental stresses that act as the limiting factors in the plant distribution patterns. So internal morphology, anatomy, and physiology of a plant limits its distribution patterns because a plant is adapted to a particular environment and it cannot go beyond those limits. And these morphology, anatomy, and physiology, it give it certain type of capacity to cope with the environment in which it already lives. So it gives it capacity to cope with these stresses in a particular environment. So these features are recognized as a more of effective way of defining the formation and biomes. So different formations are there, different biomes are there, and these physiological features, these anatomical and morphological features of the plants are more effective in defining why a plant or animal chooses where it lives rather than the evolutionary system of classification. So there was another scientist as the Kristen Ronkier who had the proposal of life forms of the plants. And then there is the concept of community as well. A plant ecologist, Frederick Clements, gave the concept of community for the first time. Communities resemble individual organisms in their degree of internal organization and may similarly behave as units in their pattern of distribution. So, what he said that in a community, there are different individual in an organism there are different organs, so the organization inside an organism, that is system and organs, just like that the individuals are present in a community as well, and they have the same division of labor or the same functions as in a community. So then there is the concepts of succession and climax. The link concepts of succession and climax first developed by the Henry Cowles, and there was an alternative approach which is chaos theory. So the succession and climax is that in an environment or an ecological system or ecosystem, it is developing and it reaches to the pinnacle where it resides, and that is called climax. So succession is the gradual incremental change to a higher community, and the climax when it reaches that pinnacle. And this was the concept which was first given by the Henry Cowles. And the alternative approach to the ecosystem is the chaos theory. Chaos theory is sort of a pattern which develops out of a randomness. So everything is behaving in a random way, in its own way, and all when we sum all of these things, that develop a very intricate pattern which is not very good, but this is an explanation how an ecosystem forms. So a concept that the outcome of a process is highly dependent on the initial condition as well. So there was a concept that whatever we have today, the initially one event may change that what we have today. So this is sort of these were the different concept for the development of an ecosystem. So the ecosystem concept, one of the most influential ideas of ecological studies, and it is useful in the biogeographical studies as well. So the work of Raymond Lindemann, who in 1942 put forward a formal account of energy flow in nature. So we know that the only intake of energy an ecosystem gets, that is from the sun. Now that energy goes from the producers to the consumers, and at various stages it is going through the decomposers as well. So all of those energy or formal account of those energy flows, that was first given by the Raymond Lindemann. And this idea was further expanded by the work of American ecologist Howard and Eugene Odom, and named by the British botanist Arthur Tansley. Any selected portion of nature is an entity within which energy flows and element cycle. So this is the ecosystem concept. So the idea of ecosystem that was expanded by these American scientists and a British botanist, and they said that this is an entity which is present in an environment in which the energy flows and elements are cycling through it. So, in the early 1960s, the first landscape scale ecosystem was subjected to monitoring and manipulative management at Hubbard Brook, a forested mountainside in New Hampshire. So, this was a sort of in 1960s, we have developed enough knowledge to conduct some experiments that how an ecosystem develops. And then there is the concept of ecophysiology that examines how plants and animals vary in their physiological processes in response to the environment. When we have different environments, the animals and the plants or the organism in general, they will be behaving differently and there will be different responses from them. So subtle differences in organism system provide some species with capacity to survive in stressful environments. So certain species are more adept to the environment and they will survive, and certain species are less adept and they won't survive in a stressful condition or stressful environment. And there comes the neutral theory of biodiversity. It says that the assemblage of species in a site is entirely a matter of chance. So everything that is happening in an environment, that is matter of chance, and the arrival of species is a stochastic process. Stochastic process is that it can't be predicted. It could happen earlier, it could happen later. There is no causal relationship with anything. It is just a matter of chance. And the best predictive models are based on this concept of chance dispersal. So everything, for example, if there is a, a tree which disperses the seeds with the help of air, there is no cause that that seed will go on a particular place. So this is something that is solely based on the chance, and the neutral theory of biodiversity is explaining that all the ecosystems that develop, they are entirely stochastic. That means they are based on the chances.